On today's show, an unforgettable season for the Denver Nuggets in good ways, in bad ways, everything in between. We will talk about it next here on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. On this episode, my name is Ryan Blackburn. I am at Mile High Sports, senior NBA writer over there, I guess. That's I guess, the title that I have, Pickaxe and Roll Podcast. He is Matt Moore, who just got done with a whole bunch of recordings for Buckets over at the Action Network. Make sure to go check out the Buckets podcast, which is bringing all the great content on the betting side of things, as well as the Denver Dig. You put up a great story on the Denver Dig. Can you share more about what you wrote there?
Yeah, so it's kind of like a big picture look at the season and the end of it, and kind of the changes that are likely to come, but why it's going to be hard. And you were kind of talking about this today, and it's something that we're gonna kind of look back at the season today. But I do think that they need to make changes, and change is going to be hard, and that's going to be, I think, a big part of the conversation going forward for the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, it's gonna be very difficult. There's a lot of restrictions that they have. There's also a worldview that I think has to change within the organization for them to actually decide to change things. But we will talk about that in a separate episode. For now, we're kind of doing more of a season wrap-up episode today. We're going to talk about best moments of the 2024-25 season. We'll talk about worst moments of the season. And then last segments, not just watch Thunder Wolves. I just kind of perused Thunder Wolves and saw that the Thunder demolished the Wolves despite having one day of rest after a 7-game series. I think that might change my perspective on where the Nuggets are at personally if the Wolves get smashed. But first and foremost, Matt, when we're talking about best moments, we're talking about worst moments. Let's focus on the best in the first segment. What do you really think about when you think about the best moments for the Nuggets this year?
I think about the unparalleled greatness that Nikola Jokic showed every night, that his performances night to night, like a 60-20-10 game. For him to have had the performances that he had, there were so many that I was just like, I have to remember what this was like covering this, to have been there, to have seen this, to like have felt what it was like to be in the building. 35, 22, 17 on 12 of 19 from the field versus the Sacramento Kings was one of, like, as great as 60-20-10 was, that was like the Kings game was honestly better. Like that 35-22-17 game touched the face of basketball God. It was unbelievable. That was an incredible moment. Obviously, every single one of AG's playoff buzzer beater iconic moments were huge. And they were really gratifying to watch that for AG, who's been through so much this season. I think that to me were the real highlights, because in between it was hard. Like it was just kind of a hard year for everybody. It was hardest for the team, obviously. I think the media would think we've struggled this year with how to put this team into context.
I think it was hardest for me personally. I think I'm going to fall on that sword. It was more difficult for me than anybody within the Nuggets organization. So you guys, boo! You guys don't deserve any credit. No, I do. I totally agree, man. That is how I would characterize it as well. There were these bright, shining rays of light in the midst of what was a pretty difficult year for the Nuggets, where they're trying to prove to everybody that they're still at championship level, that they are still a reason for people to have faith. A year removed from the title defense that didn't go the way that they wanted it to. But I remember being there for multiple Nikola Jokic one-handed, like three-quarter court shots.
Oh, God. Yeah.
The buzzer beaters that were hit this year, whether it was Jamal Murray shining in the clutch, whether it was, you remember the game where It was actually the 30-20-20 game that Jokic had. That was a primetime game against the Suns where Christian Brown hit this massive three with 1.5 seconds left. And then Kevin Durant inexplicably gets free for a wide open game tying three. And then Denver wins that one in overtime. But there were just a lot of ones like that.
But there were also, like there were incredible wins. The Thunder one on the road on the back-to-back after it was like, well, Denver's not in OKC's tier. And then they win that one on the road on the second night of a back-to-back. That was a phenomenal win. Like that was just such like a great win. The Warriors win early in the season. I thought that was a terrific win for them. Like they did. Here's the thing is like the Nuggets won 50 games again. They had a lot of wins this season.
Yeah.
And that's something I think to appreciate and to remember. And like, especially all of those, like the Michael Porter Jr. games early in the season where he really took a step forward and looked like he had leveled up were really cool. The stretches and moments where you got the all five back together and they were able to play together. Christian Brown, so many games where it was like, it was a average thing in the post-game press conference. We get in there and we get box scores and we sit down before the coach, first Malone and then Adelman comes in. And like almost every time I'd be like, son of a Christian Brown plus 15 again. Like just every single time.
Yeah.
He's positive this season. This is what I kind of like really struggle with this season is like, they were a good team. There are bad teams in the NBA. This was not one of them. They were a good team. They just weren't ever able to be what they wanted to be, what the expectation was for them to be, and what the fans and media wanted them to be. And that's just good. That's the reality going into the offseason. That's the expectation set by ownership, by management, by fan base, and by the players themselves. But that doesn't rob them of all these, like, there were really good times along the way.
I do also think Russell Westbrook deserves some credit in terms of some big moments and some fun, high-flying moments that he had. There were plenty of games, I think, that you could point to. The Russ triple-doubles were fun during the middle of the season. But you're right. Like, intermingled between all of these moments were just unfortunate downs, unfortunate low points. But I will say the 8-game win streak in February that helped win or keep Michael Malone's job and Calvin Booth's job, frankly, that was a fun moment. And it was 3 straight 30-point games for Michael Porter Jr. to end that stretch. There's just a lot of stuff. Oh, and Jamal Murray having 55 in a game against Portland. Like, there's a lot of things that happened, of course. And you forget it when you're in the midst of the 82-game grind and then getting into the playoffs. And like you said, with all these expectations, a lot of these things get lost. But you're right. This was a good season. It was not a great season. It was a good season, but that shouldn't make it any less forgettable for, I think, what is a team that and a fan base, I think, that has been a little bit spoiled by the greatness of Nikola Jokic for 10 years now. So this will be definitely one to forget, or one to remember, excuse me. The best season of Nikola Jokic's career, and that should not go amiss as well. Any other final things you want to cover for best?
The media food was so much better.
It was so much better.
They got a new chef, you guys, and you have no idea. It was so much better. And it was like a simple thing. They would just put like spicy pepper garnish on like a lot of it, and it made it way better. And you don't want to hear about it, but God, it really was. It was an incredible turn. Like, comeback, like the We Believe catering group at Ball Arena with the kind of comeback they pulled off this year. Phenomenal.
I can't believe they used that marketing slogan. I couldn't believe it. Actually, I mean, I guess I can, but it was horrible. But you are 100% right. One of the highlights of the time, especially for somebody, I was able to make it there every single home game. So big up to the catering crew. All right, tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we are gonna pivot into more of my territory, the negative side of things, the low points for the Nuggets in the 2024-25 season. We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets.
Shopping for a car should be exciting, not exhausting. But between the confusing prices and hidden fees, it can feel overwhelming. Oh, do I hate a hidden fee? My dad put this into me. My dad used to absolutely just go ballistic on car salesmen whenever they would try and be like, yep, this is the price. And then you get in there and they're like, well, I mean, there's fees. And my dad would just absolutely lose his mind. It was terrifying, and I feel the same way. But that's why I love using CarGurus. They help you cut through that noise and show you the best deals with full confidence. With over 4 million listings, CarGurus has more new and used cars than any other major online marketplace in the U.S. They verify dealers, provide real price analysis, and give you the tools and data you need to make the right choice without second-guessing yourself. The in-depth vehicle details give you the peace of mind before stepping onto any lot. And the best feature is the price drop alerts. So you know exactly when the perfect car is available for your budget. You got to be patient. My wife had to teach me this, honestly, because I was just like, oh, I want that thing. I'll get it. And she was like, well, no, you wait till the price is the right thing. And by doing that, by being more patient with my purchases, especially when it comes to buying cars, helped me out a ton. Buy or sell your next car today with CarGurus at CarGurus.com. Go to CarGurus.com to make sure your big deal is the best deal. That's CarGurus.com. CarGurus.com. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets.
All right, back out of here, Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, of course, as we transition now into off-season content and the unfortunate kind of reaction to the worst low points for the Nuggets this season. Obviously, losing Game 7 in a blowout never feels good. That one doesn't really make the list, if I'm going to be honest. It's not necessarily something that I felt too stressed about, just because I think all Nuggets fans, especially when you heard the Aaron Gordon news, were pretty resigned to the idea that something like this could happen. Although I did talk myself into the idea that they could still upset OKC on the road.
I don't think you can, because it's just like they had lifted the fan base up so much, right? Like it felt like they didn't end on a high, but they didn't end on a low when you look at the entire season.
Yeah.
The low point, here's what's weird, as I don't feel like the low point was, I called the low point Game 3 versus the Clippers, and I said it's going to get better from here, and it did. Honestly, like it did. Like they feel like they are in a better place than they were even at that point. I mean, the low points have to be those Wizards losses.
Yeah,
just there has to be a certain standard that you set, and it's like, how can I put this? It's not even that they lost to the Wizards. It's really not. It's not even that they lost the Wizards twice. It was that those games were not like, well, yeah, I mean, they were just stupid and silly. Like they got outright beat. Like the Washington Wizards beat them twice. And that was where it was really like, you and I had those episodes where we just buried them twice over that, because it wasn't like they were not games that we could let slide. We do that a lot. Like I've done that a ton on the show where I'm like, hey, they didn't have it tonight. Didn't play well. Other team got hot. It happens. Move on. Like you scrap this one and you move on. Those were not that. Yeah. And there were so many games like that. Somebody mentioned the loss of the Blazers, which I had forgotten. That one was atrocious. The Lakers loss the Lakers loss was a bummer. That was a real bummer. Was that loss? The first loss to the Spurs was a heartbreaker. Losing to the Suns on Christmas, that one sucked too. Like I think I remember the losses from this season so much more than I do the wins. And if you want to be like, yeah, that's because you two are so negative. No. Like this is the first season I can say that. Like I can talk about wins I remember in 2024 and 2023 and 2022 and 2021 and 20 and 19, all the way back to the Brian Shaw era. I can talk about, like, I remember those wins way more. Now, when we get to the Brian Shaw era, I remember the losses. Yeah. But like these losses this year always felt, it was frustrating on top of being disappointing. And that combo, I think, was really difficult for the fans.
Yeah, there was a certain level of, and we fought about this kind of behind the scenes, the level of seriousness, the level of attention to detail, the consistency that I think you should be showing in the regular season. And you push back, and I think rightly so, on a consistent basis. Like, okay, They lost. Okay, so what? Like they'll turn the page. It's 82 games. Sometimes things like this happen, but I also just think that Denver let a lot of those games happen too often. And I'm gonna bring attention to a stretch that I remember very vividly. The Nuggets went on the road following they won 8 of 9 games in January. The only loss that they had was a loss that Jokic and Gordon sat against the Houston Rockets on the second night of a back-to-back. Ho-hum. Not a big deal. And then they went on that 5-game road trip, if you recall. The first game, they lose at Minnesota by 30. The second game, they lose at Chicago, and they give up 129 points. The next game, they lose at New York, give up 122.
Yeah, that was rough.
The next game, they won against Philly, but they gave up 134 points to this injured, decrepit, disgusting Philly roster that had Tyrese Maxey and nobody else. And it was at that point that I just wrote them off. And I remember having that conversation with you, and it felt horrible in the moment. Just like, okay, so we're just at the point where you don't care. We're at the point where it's just acceptable to play like you don't care on the defensive end.
I think, do you feel like in retrospect, this is how I feel because we saw them in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I feel like they couldn't care.
You might be right.
Like, I think that's like the difference here is that something, and you learn something every year, I think, on this gig. I didn't get the sense that they were satisfied with it. I don't get this, like, they really aren't wired that way. These guys are not complacent dudes. That's why I always kind of balked when you would describe it that way. When you were like, they didn't care. And I was like, I think they care. I just don't think they can do it. I think there's something to these long runs that takes away your ability to do it when you do it year after year after year after year. I think the first couple of years that you're getting it together, it feels amazing. And then after that, it just is like, I already did it. Like, I'm just trying to get through this. So, because I know what lies ahead. And I think that gets worse every year. You know, because in 2024, it was like they're defending their title. They're still staying sharp because they're trying to, you know, and then they just ran out of gas. And I think that does something to you when it's like, look, I cared last year and I didn't have anything when the Wolves were coming back from down 20. And so I kind of wonder if that's maybe part of it. Does that make sense?
Of course. No, I fully get it. And I'm not sure if I fully agree, but I can totally see the perspective in terms of, yeah, Denver, they were 21st in defense this year, but a lot of that was because they had the talent and if they had the want to, they could have been the 10th best defense, but they couldn't do that in part because they gassed out the previous year and they knew that. But the problem is they would never say that. They would never outline that. They were always like, yeah, we know we have to be better. We know we have to be better. This is a problem. We have to fix it. And they never really ever took any steps to fix it during the regular season to me.
We can't get out of this episode without mentioning the Wolves game. We just can't. Yeah. Like 60-20-10, Russ blows the layup, Russ fouls, NAW at the buzzer. You know,
that broke a lot of people.
It broke a lot of people. Somebody mentioned like Malone got fired after the Pacers game, but that was that same week. Like that Wolves game was kind of it.
That was when he lost his job.
And I've never seen Malone as defeated as he was after that game. And so that was just like a really brutal one because they had done so much and they knew what Jokic had given them. Like one of the things I wrote in the dig this week was like, and I've written a lot about this. The whole thing next year has got to be, they cannot wind up in this pit again of we're failing Jokic. Like they got to get out of this pit because fans talk about it all the time. And that's one thing, but oftentimes like fans will talk about stuff and I'll be like, whatever, this is not how the players look at it. But like the players felt it too. And I think it was corrosive this year. Like, I think it was really nasty for everybody. And I think honestly for Joker, it caused this like real refractive almost thing where it's like, I don't want to blame anybody else because I believe in the team, but I'm doing everything. Like the team needs this from me. So I'm doing it, but we're still not winning. Like it was this constant back and forth because I don't think that's how he wants to play. It's not how he wants to be. I legitimately think that Joker does not want to play at an MVP level. He wants to play at like a really good player level and have so much help that it's not easy, but just that he doesn't have to stand out like that.
100%. I'm totally with you. And that was the overarching terrible moment of the season, was that it felt like Jokic had to be the greatest player of all time every night. And it was just like the random Tuesday game in December that he had to be that version of himself. And that sucks because it shouldn't have to be that way. And the Nuggets should have, like, there are things that the team can do. There's things that the organization can do, but he should never have to, nor should he want to, nor should they like put him in a position to have to do that again.
Do you feel like you've gotten all that negativity out of you and you're like ready for a fresh start and ready to embrace like a better, even if this is going to be hard? Because part of my thing is, and we'll talk a lot about what they're going to do. Yeah, it's really hard for them to improve, but you know what? Like, it's going to be different no matter what. Even if they bring back the core four, it's still going to be different. Like, it will be different next year because these seasons are never the same. But for you,
I'm not sure. So like, I think you're probably right that it'll have a different feel just from the player's perspective. Like, I think there's been a lot of not humbling, but in terms of kind of reassessing of where Denver is at from both internally and externally. But I just wonder, and I feel pretty comfortable like saying this, they're going to have a lot of trouble trying to get different. They're going to have a lot of trouble.
I agree, but let's not rule out the possibility before we get there. It looks hard now, but we'll see what they do. Before we get a break, I do want to kind of mention, you want to know what was the worst moment of the season? Every single Nikola Jokic presser.
He was bad. He was bad this year, man. It was also 2 hours after the game finished. So
I'm not gonna, that's our job. Like, he gets to do that. It's his time is valuable, ours is not. That's how this works. If we don't want to hear from him, we can go home, which I do a lot of the time. But for me, it's just more of like the fact that he was so bummed out the whole time sucked. Not for us, just in general. It's like I felt not bad for him. There's a level of empathy where I'm like, I get you don't want to do this. I get you don't want to be here. I get you don't want the team to be like this. I get this. Like, and then we have to go through the process of doing our job, which is like asking him these questions. So yeah, it was not an enjoyable experience attending Nikola Jokic's press conferences this season.
Not my favorite thing. When we come back, we will transition over. The OKC Thunder smashed the Minnesota Timberwolves game 1. What does that say about the Denver Nuggets? We'll be right back here on Locked On Nuggets.
Oh, and we're going to talk about Malone.
Yeah.
When I found out Skims was making underwear from Ben, I was intrigued. Heard so much about their quality from friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it lives up to the hype. You're always going to have issues with underwear. Fit, comfort, just finding the right style for yourself. Skims is going to change all that. Their men's line offers something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. You can try out the Stretch 5 boxer brief. If you work out, it's absolutely awesome. You're not going to like wearing those synthetic feeling workout underwear. That's not the one. But when you try Skims and their stretch boxer briefs, it's going to feel like you found the missing link. They're going to give you all the movement that you need without feeling like you're walking around wearing gym clothes the rest of the day. They never lose their shape and they never ride up. It's going to be absolutely the best selection that you can make for your workout gear. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and Skims stores. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Skims is the official underwear partner of the NBA, WNBA, and USA Basketball. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets.
All right, back at it. Locked On Nuggets. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Matt, I got to be honest with you. I listened to about 7 seconds of Michael Malone's analysis in the OKC Minnesota game because I didn't really watch a lot of that game. The clip that's going viral around Denver Nuggets media and frankly NBA media, I've seen a lot of national folks being like piping in on this and saying that he was betraying Nikola Jokic and betraying the Nuggets fan base for the take that he had that, yeah, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander showing why he's the MVP. I don't know, man. Like, I didn't have any problem with the way that he said it.
He's gonna win it.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing. If Jokic was gonna win it, he wouldn't have said it. Now. That doesn't mean that this isn't purposeful. Malone knows what he's doing. He's always been a guy that has been awesome at winning the press conferences. And if you want to say that's why you liked him, okay. I think, by the way, people saying like, yeah, he said OKC has the best fans in the league. Yeah, so he doesn't have to say the things that he said in Denver anymore. They fired him. And I'm just going to be like really clear on this. Michael Malone does not, like, I would say this to each and every one of you. None of you owe anything to any employer that fires you. None of you owe anything to them. Okay? You get to feel and respond however you want to. Now, if you're just like, it's gross, he should be more classy. I get it. I understand. These are digs. But also, I just don't think that Malone takes it that seriously. I just don't think that to him it's this big of a deal, because like he's going to be on TV for 4 weeks and then he's going to be back wanting to coach again. I don't think he's ever going to. Yeah, this is a good point by CT. The team also quit on him, so I don't think that there's like a feud with him and Joker. Again, I reported at the time, and I continue to report this, is that Nikola Jokic, I believe that there were conversations that were had with Nikola, that Nikola never, ever, 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 ever indicated that he wanted Malone fired, nor was he asked directly, do you want us to fire Malone? He was not asked that, nor did he give his assent in that relate. He gave his thoughts on the season, where the team was at, what's going on, and ownership made their decision that they did. That's my understanding of the situation based on the reporting I've done. I'm not going to blame Malone for any of this. Like, he's on ESPN. The job is to hype up the Thunder. You would want him hyping up. You would want, I'm trying to think, Billy Donovan, I guess, whoever it would be. You would want that person hyping up the teams that are there. He definitely knows what he's doing, but I just wouldn't take it that seriously. Like, Michael Malone has a closer relationship with Nikola Jokic than you do. Like, they have a closer relationship. He has a closer relationship with the city, and he's always going to be the coach that brought the city its first championship. So I would not let this get to you, but I also am not going to sit here and act like, no, it was totally innocent. I know Malone better than that.
I also think that once cooler heads kind of prevail, Malone has never been known to be a cooler head. But once cooler heads prevail in this situation, he will get his jersey retired in Denver. He will get, like, Jokic and him will have all of the fun conversations. And like when they do retirement and Hall of Fame ceremonies and things like that, the stories that Michael Malone is going to be able to share about Nikola Jokic is going to be great. But it sucks. This is why firing your coach sucks. It's the underlying things that you just,
it's going to be amazing if this, I will say it's going to be amazing if this continues and he winds up like building a grudge, right? That's gonna keep him from being welcome back, because it's just like the city does still love him. Like, this isn't gonna permeate. This is an online thing. This isn't gonna permeate. Like, your casual fans still gonna love him. He's still the coach that told them to take the L on the way out. That he's still the one that said, he's still the Lakers' daddy. Like, these are all things that I think are gonna persist. But it's also, again, I'm not gonna sit here and act like, no, like, Malone didn't do anything wrong. Like, he knows what he was doing. Like, that's what he's doing. I don't have a lot of takeaways from Thunder Wolves game 1, except like, hey, if you turn the ball over and you give them 31 points off of turnovers, this is what happens. And there's also, like, it was really funny because Swipa was like, Jokic dropped so and so on this team, and I'm like, yeah, he also had like a ton of turnovers. Like, This was game 2 of the Thunder Nugget series, just happened in game 1. I actually like the Wolves a lot to win game 2. But yeah, like, this Thunder team, you want to know what's interesting about this? I've been chatting a while. This is the team that is breaking a little bit of my convention that I've always thought you can control your turnovers. Ryan, I don't think you can versus OKC. They're just going to take it away from you. Like, you have to live with a certain amount from them.
It's unfortunate because Denver, I thought, did at various points a really good job of preventing turnovers, but it was the very few times where it just kind of got out of whack. They went on a run and OKC just they pounce, man. Like they're a team full of jackals. They're a team full of like whatever predator you are trying to describe. They are that group that just feasts on the ball and they try to eat your soul. It's pretty impressive to watch them play defense, and especially when you don't have a rooting interest anymore. Yeah, I think that Denver, because here's the thing, if the Thunder win in 4 against the Wolves, wouldn't that change your impression of how the Nuggets were able to match up with them? Like one of the best teams, like definitely the best team in the NBA this year.
No, it really wouldn't.
No,
No, because it's just like, one, I still don't know how Denver won game 1. Still trying to figure it out. Still have no idea how they won game 1. And I also just think like these things are all about matchups. Matchups make fights. And if the Wolves are able to if they win this series in 4, like you don't need to know that they're better. We know they're better. It's about, can you beat them? Like we know the Thunder are better than everybody else. There's no question about that. They have the best point differential in NBA history.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, I don't think that series, I honestly don't think series prove like those kind of results. I don't think they prove that much about who they were. Like I would just tell you like the Wolves were a better team than the Nuggets this season. I will feel confident about that even if the Thunder win in 4.
Interesting. I think I underrated them throughout the year because I just thought that a lot of Minnesota's like awesome stuff happened specifically against Denver, and then they turned it to a pumpkin against a lot of these other teams. But one team that they did really match up well with was OKC. And I expect them to continue to challenge OKC. But if they're not able to, like it does kind of change my perspective on Denver, just being able to show some of that resilience and some of that fight and like against a team that has presented these massively difficult odds. Because while we are in the parity era, I do think the Thunder kind of break that in some ways. Like they are a stacked team. They're a stacked team that really benefited from being young at the right time, having a million assets at the right time, and then going and getting Isaiah Hartenstein in free agency and Alex Caruso via trade for a prospect that they just didn't need.
There are Thunder fans in our comment. Why? Like, why? Like, you just won Western Conference Finals game 1. Head on over to Locked On Wolves.
Guys,
you're up with us.
I'm talking you up, man. You're a great team.
Yeah.
Although shout out to a lot of the Thunder beat reporters that decided that they wanted to act a little bit nasty after winning a game 7 at home. That one was
pretty
interesting.
But not Rylan Stiles, who's always a professional.
Yes.
For Locked On Thunder. Yeah, I don't know. I get it. I don't take the results of these series as like we act like they're determinative. They build these narratives in ways that I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like Denver won two nail biters games that were probably closer to coin flips. The Thunder won 2 games that were closer to coin flips. Denver won 1 really good game, and the Thunder won 2 really good games. Like that's kind of how that goes. Where it's like, if Minnesota doesn't get the opportunity, then they don't get the opportunity. Tony, again,
I was just gonna say,
how many times? Like I've called out the Cronkies like 17 times. Like how do you want us to have a segment every? Sorry, Tony B's comment. If you're listening on podcast, are y'all going to discuss that Cheapskate Cronkies need to be called out for their horrible mismanagement of the franchise? First of all, if they won an NBA title, That's the thing that happened. They've made 2 Western Conference Finals, 1 NBA title. Second, look, we've criticized the Cronkies pretty consistently, especially about stuff like the practice facility, especially about them not spending money
at Tony's behest.
You know what? I'm making an overlay. That's what I'm going to do, Ryan. I'm making an overlay for the summer that says, yes, we hit your comments about the Cronky spending habits have been duly noted.
I think we should make an overlay. We will stop criticizing ownership once they build a practice facility. That's I think that's a reasonable take at this point. Okay. I think that's all I got.
Yeah, I think we're good. We'll be back on sometime. I think we might do a show tomorrow. We'll see who's around for tomorrow's show. We have we have a text thread and we're going through like tons of offseason ideas. We're gonna have some really cool ideas. I guarantee you, Ryan is gonna be like the king. This is his like MVP season. Is Ryan, and the opportunity for him to talk about all the things the Nuggets can do to make this team better when they do none of them. So you're gonna want to keep it here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Hopes and dreams.